Welcome back to another week of furniture refinishing. If you remember, last week I painted and refinished a dresser that looked pretty similar to this. It was slightly different, but I'd say within the same family of design. And that little dresser turned out so cute. I really wanted to lean into more the whimsical style with that scalloped edge on the bottom and get a little fun and creative with it, a little bit more youthful, I would almost say. Whereas this week, I want to take this piece in a completely different direction and show you how two dressers can look completely different from each other in the end. Like was mentioned last week, this dresser is all solid wood. It's a really, really beautiful dresser. It's constructed very well. The lines are a little bit more simple than the other dresser. It does not have that decorative trim across the top, and all of the drawers are flat faced. And my plan is to take this back down to its raw wood form, stain it and make it dark and moody, something that's a little bit more mature, a little bit more adult, and something completely different than the one from last week. Follow along and let's see how this one turns out. The first few steps of this process will look very similar to the one last week. It'll look similar to almost every dresser that I do. And that means taking it apart and assessing for any damage. They did line these drawers with an older contact paper, which I love to see. Usually that means there's a nice clean drawer underneath 9 times out of 10. Something that I will absolutely be changing are these batwing poles. Again, they're similar to the other dresser. They just look kind of small and a little silly on this dresser, in my opinion. The two on the sides balance it, but the one single one on the bottom 4 look way too small for the size of the drawer face, in my opinion. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove the hardware now, but I'm actually gonna leave this contact paper in there pretty much until the end. By leaving it in here, it's one more surface to help protect. Say if I accidentally spilled some stain or top coat or something that I don't want to get in the bottom of this drawer, it's a little bit of added protection that I don't need to add because it's already there. And I did peel up a little bit of a corner and it looks like the bottom is in good enough shape that I don't have to worry about this paper necessarily hiding any major issues. I'll just remove it at the end. Time to clean everything. I have a bucket of just clean warm water and a old rag, and I'm going to use a TSP alternative. Any degreaser really works. Just make sure to rinse it off if it's a formula that needs to be rinsed off after you use it to clean. This dresser is not nearly as dusty inside the actual cavity of the dresser as the other one was. That one was caked with dust. But I'm still going to clean this one. It still has dust, it's still dirty, and it still deserves to have a fresh surface. So there's several different ways that I could go about filling these hardware holes. I've done solid wooden pegs before, glued in place. I've done Bondo. And honestly, I think in this situation, I'm just gonna do Bondo. You still have to do, I'd say, about the same amount of color correcting if you're planning on staining a piece as you would Bondo and wooden dowels. And if I use wooden dowels, I have to wait for that glue to set up and dry. And that glue, in my opinion, tends to stain the wood just as bad as Bondo would. It prevents the stain from actually adhering in the grain. And I mean, I try to sand it off and wipe it off as best as possible, but sometimes it just does not come all the way off while it's drying. So in this situation, I'm just gonna use Bondo. And I am opting to put the Bondo on and apply it before I sand, just because the finish will help to protect that wood grain from the Bondo sinking in it too much. Just a little bit more precaution taken. And I fully expect to have to do 2 rounds of this Bondo. Another good thing that comes up when cleaning a piece is that you get to really look at the different components. A lot of these drawer tracks are loose and wiggling. So I am going to get a different bit because that does not fit. There. I'm going to go ahead and loosen them, take them up, and then add a little bit of wood glue. So I am actually planning on keeping the base of this piece. I think that it's simple enough where it won't take away from the look that I'm trying to achieve with this one. And for once, the dresser is actually a good height. A lot of times these dressers are pretty short, but unfortunately one of the screw hole covers, the pegs, is missing. So I am just going to take a 1/2-inch dowel and cut it and glue it in place so that that hole is covered. I will stain this wood. It's a different species. I'll stain it and color correct it to match if I need to. With the drawer fronts all sanded down, the top all sanded down, and the front all sanded down, I can now work on the sides. I do find it easiest to tip it up onto one of its sides. I will use a blanket to try to cushion it from the vibrations against my floor, but it's so much easier to work on these when this surface is facing upright, at least in my opinion. I'm to the point where I'm ready to get some color back on this piece. It's always the exciting part. Most of the hard work is out of the way. I am going to start with the drawer fronts, and I'm going to be using a water-based stain. This is Special Walnut. It's just my base color. I'm going to really deepen and richen it up using a toned top coat like you've seen me do before. And this time I am opting to spray it with water first, just a light misting. This will help to let the stain go on a little bit smoother. You'll notice you can see the outline of where the hardware was. That's so common for pieces that have been finished or stained and the hardware has sat on there for a long time. The wood might have colored and aged over time, say if it's sat in the sun or something, and the wood just aged differently underneath that hardware, or I guess didn't age is more like it. Sometimes the stains are enough to cover it. In this situation, I'm not that concerned because I will be doing that tinted top coat, but just be aware if you have hardware that sits flush to a piece of furniture like this, it's not uncommon to have that ghost outline, and sometimes stain doesn't cover it. A solution that you might be able to do if it really is a persisting problem for you would be to try to bleach the entire drawer front. That might lighten the rest of it up enough to match the tone of whatever wood was underneath the hardware. But again, it's not necessarily a foolproof method. One of the really true perks of that water-based stain is it dries so quickly. Basically 5 minutes in front of the fan, and at least in my climate, it's pretty much dry already. It does definitely tend to change color as it dries. So if you do use it, don't expect it to be the same color as it is while wet on the wood. It dries down to be a lighter, more muted color, I would say. I haven't tried doing multiple coats with it. It might work. I would definitely suggest misting it down if you try doing that, because it does dry on the wood pretty chalky feeling. And I could imagine it might be hard to wipe back, or it might dry too quickly with a second coat if you don't mist down the surface first. But I'm gonna build my color in a slightly different way. I'm gonna be using a tinted top coat, but before I do that, I do want to go ahead and seal the whole thing. I'm just using a satin water-based top coat and spraying it through my sprayer. I like to do this step before I do any color corrections with my color touch-up paint kit. Top coat can sometimes change the color of the stained wood just ever so slightly. It richens and deepens the color, and sometimes it brings out the different tones. So number one, I want to make sure that the color is pretty true. But then secondly, by adding a top coat and letting it dry thoroughly, if I mess up completely, before that paint dries, since it's water-based, I can take like a wet paper towel and mostly buff it off and start again. It's pretty forgiving until it dries. You do absolutely want to seal it though after it does dry, just so that it is nice and sealed in and durable. I am going to give everything a really light sanding with a high grit sandpaper just over the surface that I did seal. Because I use water-based products, sometimes it can cause the grain to rise a little bit, and all you have to do is just very, very lightly sand it back down and just plan on resealing over it. I am going to color correct and then I will reseal after that. All right, now I am ready to really richen and deepen that color up with my tinted top coat kind of concoction. I'm going to top off my spray gun with some more clear top coat. I did go ahead and wash out the actual spray nozzle part so that that's nice and clear, and when I go to spray the tinted color on, it's not just coming out patchy in the beginning. I want it to be as even as possible. And then I take really any water-based dark brown paint. You will start to notice the undertones if you have like a more purpley brown color, but the more true, like more cool toned brown color, the more cool tone your tint will be. I find both of them to be really pretty. Either option is really pretty, but I'm trying to go with a little bit more of a moody look with this one. And again, I don't really measure anything. I just kind of put a couple of tablespoons in to my spray gun. And then I'm gonna mix it very, very well. And for this particular dresser, I am gonna spray it with the drawers in. I find that it sprays a lot smoother with much more even coverage if I have the drawers in and lined up. For this particular one, I am gonna pull them out ever so slightly because they do cover a little tiny bit of the frame of the dresser, and I wanna make sure to get that frame as well. All right, it's finally time to remove this old paper. I honestly think it's kind of cute. I mean, it's definitely vintage, the little pink roses. It's just not in great shape, and it's been kind of patchworked in other drawers. So I'm gonna use a heat gun on low just to help me soften up that adhesive. It really does help to peel this stuff up. To have a heat gun or even a blow dryer works too. This is the liner that I grabbed for this dresser. I think it's gonna really complement the tones in it. Each drawer is roughly just a little smaller than 22 inches long, so I'm gonna cut 6 of these at 22 inches. And with those really pretty, bright, gold-colored drop pulls installed on this dresser, it's all complete. It's done. Let's take a look back and remind ourselves what we started with. There was nothing wrong with this dresser. I thought it was cute. It had a slightly dated finish. Absolutely was not in love with the hardware, but it was a solid piece of furniture. What a great candidate for refinishing. This could have gone in so many different directions, and I'm glad that I picked the dark stain tone for this one. It really does showcase that very, very well. And speaking of that dark stain, let's reveal it. It's so beautiful, and I would almost dare say a little romantic. I don't know, there's something about it. Maybe I assign traits to dressers because I see so much in them after working with them. It's so buttery smooth to the touch with that nice satin sheen, those dark tones in that oak coming through compared with the bright color of those gold drop pulls. It's just such a pretty piece of furniture. And I really love how I was able to show two completely different styles from two rather similar looking dressers. I hope you really enjoyed this process, and I hope you like this dresser. Feel free to leave me a comment down below which one was your favorite. I know I'd have a hard time picking. I don't know if I have a favorite one. I like them both so much. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe. Thank you.